Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and early this week I talked about the Brexit ninja, the understated, stealthily, easily missed Brexit dimension to the King's speech. I noted at the time that the Brexiteers didn't seem to have cottoned on at the time, but they would. Today, they unleashed their fury at the idea of the government aligning our standards in order to make trade with the EU easier. Now, I've said a few times, we've seen the impact of several years of divergence from our most important market now, with no compensation from enhanced access to other markets. Whenever Brexiteers try to downplay the damaging impacts of Brexit on trade and production, they have to hide behind the financial and legal services sector, which is huge in the UK. But this was always an international trade, which Brexit barely touched. And what Brexit did do was still harmful there, just not enough to stop it growing, largely as it would have anyway. But the impact on producing things, so the impact on manufacturing, which accounts for 2.7 million jobs in the UK, or retail, 3.5 million, or even the 10,000 people working on UK fishing vessels, were utterly devastated. Oh yeah, I mean, that's right, of course. The Tories sacrificed every production sector of our economy just for the sake of literally a few thousand fishermen. Oh, they were all important, which is mad enough. But then they arguably screwed them over worse than anyone. And as some of you will know, like Warhammer's one of my hobbies. That single company, Games Workshop, the company that makes that game and those games and those models, right, based in Nottingham, that company is worth 3 times as much as our entire fishing industry. It is this complete lack of perspective which has been at the root of getting people to vote against their own interests with Brexit. Everything was so warped. The arguments were full of lies and hypocrisy. But the hypocrisy element is kicking into overdrive now. Before the election, we had already reached the point where most Brexiteers had to retreat to their sovereignty safe place. There are still a few trying to claim Brexit benefits, but they're always lies. They'll come up with trade figures which don't take account of inflation, or claims that agreements will yield results. We just have to hang on for another 20 years or something. Don't be hasty, don't be hasty. Or even just downright lies. For example, when you look at the economic impact assessment of some of our post-Brexit trade deals, it says, oh yeah, it'll provide a boost to our economy of this small amount after about 30 years. And there's some Brexiteers out there going, oh, this is like the boost to our economy every year. It's like, no, this is what they say it'll be after 30 years. So basically just downright lies. Brexit has just made us poorer, made it harder to get adequate supplies of food and medicines, as well as chemicals for treated sewage and no end of other essentials and desirables, and made our trade harder, meaning that businesses have a tougher time existing in the British marketplace, which means some have gone under, some have moved some of their operations elsewhere to the EU. Essentially, we were down to 4 types of Brexiteer. The first are those claiming that Brexit is delivering benefits. These people are not fooling anyone because people aren't feeling it. There's a very small number of them. The second are those claiming it will deliver, but we have to be patient. Only those same people who claim the benefits would be delivered overnight. Even given that overnight might be, if you're going to be fair from an operational point of view, take a couple of years, they've had long enough to be proven wrong. The third are those claiming that Brexit would have been great, but it was messed up by those in charge. But these people are nowhere near power, and nor will they be. And the fourth group, mostly in the Conservative Party, who oversaw the entire process, abandoned all pretense at tangible benefits and plugged the warm, fuzzy feeling of sovereignty instead. Yes, we might be poorer and colder, but we're happier. Even now, Nigel Farage has claimed that being poorer was a price worth paying for sovereignty. He has claimed a few times, oh, I never said it wouldn't make you poorer. All right. I mean, he doesn't want to be poor himself, of course. He kicks up a fuss when he's told he's got to change bank accounts. But even the sovereignty argument is now running out of road. The front page of the Sunday Express today carries the massive headline, The Great Brexit Betrayal. Frosty the No Man has written an opinion piece in the Sunday Telegraph entitled, The Tories and Reform Need to Expose Labour's Blatant Brexit Backsliding. And what is it that they're complaining about? It's that little Brexit bombshell in the King's speech that I discussed earlier in the week. The move to pass legislation which would allow the government to align or diverge standards in a way which will allow us to maintain high standards and ease trade with the EU single market. And nobody expects any minister to use it to diverge. It's for the purpose of reducing standards based, the standards-based trade barriers at any rate, with our neighbouring market. And they are kicking up a stink about it now. It's the opposite of the retained EU law bill, that's the thing. See, that was an attempt to allow ministers to just obliterate standards, never mind diverging, never mind tweaking, they just get rid of them altogether. Not only making workers and consumers in the UK, the British public, vulnerable, but it would also have the effect of increasing friction with our trade, harming British businesses. Because even a business that if it wants to export to the EU, so you'll say, well, it doesn't stop them having high standards themselves. It's like, yeah, but now you've made it harder to prove to the EU that your product meets their standards because you don't legally have to in your own country. This move by a Labour government is a reversal of this. It's the opposite. So you can see why the hardened Brexiteers hate it. But their opposition is their final hypocrisy. Most of them having abandoned talk of tangible benefits to people's lives, which are manifestly not there, switch to the ethereal benefits of sovereignty, purely hypothetical, because sovereignty can mean so many things to so many people. What did it mean? They said it meant we should make our own laws. Well, that's exactly what's happening here. Labour have won what is by far and away the biggest majority of any government since Brexit even became a serious proposition. And if we think about this specific move of closer alignment of standards with the EU, even if you think about the breakdown of votes, right? So Labour were open about this move. I'm not sure I expected it in the King's speech, but, they've been quick. But they'd openly talked about this. So that's a third of people. That's a minority wanting it, okay. But the move is also explicitly supported by the Lib Dems, the SNP, the Greens and Plaid. That's 55.9% of people voting for parties who were not at all shy about saying we should align with the EU. Now, if 52% of voters from 8 years ago, many of whom are dead now, is the will of the people, what is 56% from a few weeks ago? And remember that this proposal by Labour, it's not dynamic alignment. It means our democratically elected government will pick and choose which standards to align. It won't actually be all of them at this point. They will prioritise based on which ones are creating friction in our supply chains. The moves will also not be in consultation with the EU. They will decide it unilaterally. Decisions entirely made in London. I mean, how much more sovereign can you get? What exactly are they arguing against? They cannot even claim that Labour are doing it on the sly. Closer engagement with the EU and a focus on improved trade with the single market was a clear promise. The manifesto promised, in their words, to tear down barriers to trade with the EU. And divergence causes trade barriers. Every trade deal ever agreed, which seeks to reduce trade barriers, which used to be all trade deals before Brexit came along, does so by aligning standards. The more friction you want to reduce, the more standards you align. So Labour promised to do this. Other parties were, if anything, at least as vocal, if not more so, about the need to do so. 56% of people voted for it, and collectively those parties have 77% of the seats in the House of Commons. There has never been anything like this much support for Brexit, either in terms of vote share or seats won. Never. This is the parliamentary sovereignty that they say they wanted. MPs promising to do something during an election campaign and then doing it exactly as they said they would. And I think we need to call this out. This is hypocrisy. I think we need to call it out as strongly as we've called out the lack of tangible Brexit benefits. They've already been caught out not delivering the benefits they promised, like better jobs, better healthcare, a lower cost of living. Now catch them out in their sovereignty lies as well, and the Emperor is shown well and truly naked. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe for further content and click the like button. You can also sign up for memberships if you'd like to support the channel further. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.